So, you took the malaria pill, Mefloquine. But what if some of the problems you've been living with trace back to that very pill? Today, I'm going to share with you what I've learned about this drug, the side effects I went through, and why you still might be feeling the cost after taking it. So what is Mefloquine? This was developed in the 1970s by the US Army to fight malaria, and it became standard issue for soldiers, aid workers, and travelers in malaria zones. The brand name is Lariam, once seen as a miracle pill. One of the advantages is it's a once-a-week pill, unlike the daily pill doxycycline. I was getting ready for my first deployment, and a month before we started, we began taking this malaria pill. And they specifically told us. I remember my chief saying, "Hey guys, you might have some hallucinations and stuff. It's fine, ignore it." You know, that should have been red flag number one. And almost immediately, I was having vivid hallucinations, terrible nightmares. And sometimes I wasn't sure if I was awake or asleep. Little things I was asked to do, or if I was getting chewed out for something, I just lose it. I'd lose my mind. And that stuff had my brain so screwed up that I would just to their face tell them that they're a fucking idiot.
You can't say that! He can't say that!
Like in the moment, I had no sense of self-control or tact. Whatever I was feeling in that moment, I verbalized it. There was one event where I came into my shop like a zombie, and all my buddies were like, "What are you doing?" I'm thinking I'm in a dream, and I was convinced that I had to take this screwdriver. So one of my buddies came up behind me and bear hugged me into the ground until I actually woke up, and I started asking, like, what happened? Why am I in here? Because the last thing I remember was going to sleep in my rack. Now, years later, come to find out, this wasn't even FDA approved. In fact, the FDA's black box warning from 2013 says, some neuropsychiatric side effects may be permanent. What the f***, man? And one of the issues is that while you're taking this drug, if you're exposed to any traumatic event, it could be amplified tenfold. Well, that's a fucking good idea. Let's give it to the fucking military. We're floating off the coast of Africa doing the Africa Partnership Station. We're the maiden voyage, its first tour of its kind in probably like 25 years, if not more. And for New Year's, the captain gave everybody an overnight shit. Well, a bunch of my friends were going out, getting a hotel room, having a good old time, celebrating New Year's. The next day, they were dead. And during the investigation, it came to find out that some of the locals had been putting a bunch of illicit substances in their drinks. And there was actually, so two of them were dead, and there was actually a third guy, but he got so sick early that he went to bed early. So his upset stomach saved his life. And the other two guys in my shop, they didn't make it. So being on this medication and hearing news like that just sent me into a spiral, just struggling to cope with the whole situation. And then to amplify that, because they were poisoned by locals, big military didn't want that getting out. So they decided to say that my boys died of alcohol poisoning while partying out in town. Well, the problem if you die of alcohol poisoning, your family doesn't get its benefits. And they even put it out that they died of alcohol poisoning. Well, we found out that their family wasn't getting benefits. Most of the engineering was like, well, sorry, we can't get the engine started. Sorry, the boat can't move. And it was pretty much a standoff between us and the Pentagon for 3 days until the Pentagon finally promised that their families would get the benefits. And then for the rest of that deployment, I stayed on the ship. I may have gone to beer on the pier and had a few drinks with my buddies and stuff, but I refused to go out in town. I wanted nothing more to do with any country in Africa. I was over it. But even long after taking it, this pill set a whole tone for my entire Navy career. Now, I love the Navy. I love the culture of the Navy. It's probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But the fucking bureaucrats and government officials and politicians always throwing some bullshit at us. They're the ones that completely wrecking the entire culture of the Navy. And that pill set a cloud over the rest of my Navy career. I had 3 episodes of trying to pew or unalive in some way. And, by the third one, the third attempt, I woke up in a psychiatric ward. I don't even remember what the fuck happened. And that's when I was like, it's time to get out. and pursue other things. What I love most about my time in the Navy, though, is the camaraderie and the brotherhood. If it weren't for those guys, all my friends, shipmates, I probably wouldn't be here right now, or I'd be in prison somewhere, because we had each other's back, because we were all going through this in varying degrees. Some more intense than mine, some less intense. I know that a good majority of them don't know about this stuff because there's hardly any coverage about it, and that's why I felt compelled to tell this story. This is not the easiest thing to put out, but I think it's important because there's a lot of service members, not just in the Navy, but other branches, that are having some serious problems in their lives, and their lives are just in shambles, and they might not have even realized that a big contributing factor is that pill. Even after the Navy, I was still having a hard time with it, and I realized I cannot keep drinking. Now, if some of y'all can still drink beers and keep yourself in check, that's great. I know for me, I just couldn't do it. I had to cut that out of my life, and I highly recommend, especially for those who just are struggling with this extra hard, to do that. Now, if you're aware of this pill and you use it as an excuse to be a piece of shit, you are absolute garbage. All right? Not everybody who serves in the military is a hero or a good person. So don't use that as an excuse to be a piece of shit and mistreat people in your life. You're going to end up waking up one day, if you wake up at all alone. Even with all these side effects, they still deemed it worth it because malaria is such a deadly disease. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that one. We talk about the cost of war and just global travel. We never talk about the medicine involved. I mean, they injected us with all kinds of shit. There ain't no telling what's in my body. I'm probably nuclear proof. Now, this channel isn't going to be all doom and gloom, but I did feel that this was an important first video. This channel is dedicated to my experience in the Navy culture, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the what the f are they doing. So I hope you learned something today. And if you're a fan of Navy heritage and not the biggest fan of the government, I hope you like and subscribe.